In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Bologna sandwich. I'll have a bologna sandwich with extra mayonnaise.
What? Do they have those here?
Yeah.
And if you sing it to them, you get $1 off.
Yeah.
Sing your order and get $1 off.
It has to be on a croissant in order to be at Existence Brewing.
We could make this creepy for all the females that work here. I'll take your phone number and a side of mayonnaise. I don't know what that's for, but I may just have it for days. Sorry.
Oh, man. What a lyricist you are.
Oh, I know. If I'd have been born in another time, I'm sure I was a budding hip-hop artist. Have I ever stated that I do not feel that rap or hip-hop are forms of music? Artistic expression, perhaps, but not musical forms. I don't like them getting called music. To me, it's not... To me... That's not music. That's just, to me, rhyming things is not music. So did I kill my microphone?
I think, no, you're still on. You're good. You're still there.
Sorry, I can't chalk that up to music. I have to give that interesting artistic expression. Yes, but music, not so sure. It's kind of like when Cannibal Corpse became a thing. People are like, not sure if this is music exactly, but
Cannibal Corpse. What?
They made a cameo in the movie Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. That was when he went to see his buddy in the underground to track because there's always in those spy movies, even when they're just spoofs, there's always that guy, the brainiac who lives subterranean in some subterranean lair.
New England clam chowder.
That's right. And Cannibal Corpse was the band playing on the stage that he had to fight through the mosh pit to get to. They're an actual real Florida-based band. Florida death metal scene was pretty ripe. Morbid Angel came from there too. So
Morbid Angel, there's a name.
I actually like their early stuff. Morbid Angel was pretty cool, I have to admit. But I dabbled into a little bit of heavy stuff when it first came out years ago, but I'm more yacht rock guy now because you mellow. Yacht death rock is what I'm waiting for. Perfect hybrid of the two. Usually it has to have massive synth before I'm interested or any at all to qualify, but you literally wrote a song that I find alluring that has no synth whatsoever. So congratulations. That's a rare list to make. So there's a few, but again, this is why I detest is a strong word. I do not like Kiss. I do not like AC/DC. It's a big reason why they're guitar rock bands. I mean, there's not a Beth, I think, was the only song that ever had keyboards from Kiss. And I don't think AC/DC ever used keyboards at all in anything.
No.
Maybe the bell sound effects were produced with a synth in Hell's Bells, but that's literally it.
I think that was actually a physical bell.
You think it was an actual peal?
Yeah, I think it was an ancient cathedral bell.
I think it was more like akin to the Taco Bell. That is the classic bell sound effect going years back, by the way. Taco Bell just used it, but it's amazing how that has stuck. Like, Maddie will hear that and she'll just be like, it's the Taco Bell bell. I'm like, no, it's like the standard digitalized peal that has been used for decades by, lots of different mediums. It's just Taco Bell happened to use it too. She's like, no, it's the Taco Bell bell. I'm like, God damn it, that is not, like, Taco Bell did not invent that bell. There's no bell sitting somewhere that's shaped like a big taco that they ring, and that's what it makes the sound of. It's not like the Liberty Bell. There's a crack in the corn tortilla that sits around the inner part. What's the inner part called? I don't remember. Parts of a bell, the outside and the inside.
The inner chalupa.
There it is. I've made contact with my inner chalupa before. It was fabulous.
There was a news article not too long ago. What's the name of the new virus that everyone is, every once in a while the fast food world is taken by storm by, some kind of,
cyclosporin is the new thing.
Cyclosporin.
I found it very interesting that this was the way they decided to actually tell us that Taco Bell gives you diarrhea and is terrible for you. It's just like, well, we're going to veil it in this thing called cyclosporin. It's just like, no, Taco Bell has always done that to anybody's anatomy that's proper. Anybody that's like put together correctly, Taco Bell is toxic. But now they're just saying, well, it was a batch of bad jalapenos or lettuce or whatever.
That's what I was getting at.
Now it's jalapenos. Then it was something. Before it was something else, cabbage.
Isn't that a normal reaction to any kind of Taco Bell food? Is to have that kind of a deal?
Speaking of Taco Bell, I got to share this with you. I got it on my phone. So years ago, when I was toying with solo podcasting, before I realized that was impossible without the likes of you, that there would be no window of success large enough to crawl through unless I had somebody to talk to.
I would be the cast to your pod.
Yes. Yes. I get to be pod. I knew it. I used to do this podcast, and I was, at the end of it, I would toy around with this deal where I would play the part of God. So God would basically, God, of course, is sitting in on everything, but specifically he's sitting in on my podcast. And in this case, he was a he, because it just made it easier. So he appeared to me in the classic, like 20-foot dude with a big beard and, that whole thing. Looked like Gandalf, basically. That whole Gandalf the White, not Gandalf the Gray, of course. So I called them Godalogues, and it was basically just a dialogue between myself and God. And it was designed always to be humorous. It was never supposed to be insightful or anything. It was just supposed to be funny. And so this one had to do with Taco Bell, actually. So let's give this a whirl.
This is actually pretty good.
Hey, God, come on, man. I thought we talked about this. No eating in the sound booth. Hey, what are you eating anyway?
Manna.
Really? I've always wondered what that stuff tastes like.
Here, be my guest.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Jesus, this spoon is enormous. Oh!
Look at your face.
Oh, it's friggin' disgusting. Oh.
Not your thing, huh?
Oh, Jesus, no. What the hell is that stuff anyway? And why would you feed that to the Israelites?
Well, I wasn't going to dump any of the good shit from my own stash in the middle of the desert. They didn't need any fancy food anyway. They just would have fought over it, and it would have slowed them down. Plus, they made a good focus group.
A focus group on Manna. Why?
Someone had to get Taco Bell a leg up.
Taco Bell. But that stuff's even worse than this Manna shit that you just gave me. Why would you bestow divine providence to one of the most toxic fast food chains in Earth's history?
Look, Chris, when college kids get high, they all start seeing and talking to me, and I don't need that shit in my life as much anymore. So I invented the munchies first, but that wasn't good enough. I needed something to knock the little bastards out without really hurting them. So a few bags of Taco Bell when the munchies set in, and it's off to dreamland and out of my hair.
God?
Yes, Kristen?
You can be one badass king of kings sometimes.
Oh, thanks, kiddo. That might be the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
It was undoubtedly my best one that I ever did. That one for sure.
Your Godcast?
My Godalogue.
Godalogue.
Yes, which I called them instead of dialogue it was dialogue. That's right. I'm sorry. It was dialogue. That's what I called them. Instead of dialogue, it was dialogue, as in deity. Dialogue.
Oh,
I was having a dialogue with a deity, so that was the idea there. But that was by far the best one I ever did. There's a couple more that were okay, but they were challenging because I love to write comedy, and comedy's hard to write. And the reason why is because comedy is easier on the fly. If you have, like, Maddie has really great comedic timing. I like to think my timing's pretty good. I don't know if it's as sharp as hers, but I was always the funny kid growing up, so I guess I'll take it for what it's worth. But comedy is one of those things that happens very organically. It happens like out of nowhere. And that's one of the things that I feel like that makes it very difficult to write, because it requires a lot of insight and it requires a lot of timing that is different. It's a whole different mechanism when you actually have to write comedy.
Yeah.
So I really admire comedy writers that are good comedy writers, at least, that come up with skit material and stuff, because those were a really good exercise in that. But anyway, there's my foray into Taco Bell. But yes, I found the reflex about the Taco Bell thing to be interesting. And it was another fast food restaurant too, but because what they wanted us to do was just stop eating produce. They literally just said, stop eating things that are good for you, that come from the earth. So my conspiratorial gears are always turning, and I'm thinking, what the fuck kind of reptilian bullshit is this now? Stop eating, just, the safest thing to do. It's like we have Johnny Reptile is appearing on the Today Show, helping us with the latest cyclospora outbreak. Hi, Johnny. Good to hear you. Oh, yes, it's great to be here. Oh, don't mind that he just ate a live cockroach on TV. It was just a snack after his morning coffee. So, Johnny, you're recommending that people, the safest thing to do is really simple. Don't go to another fast food place.
Yeah, that's right. Just avoid vegetables and fruits altogether. That's what you do. Just don't even worry about it.
Johnny, have you ever been told you sound like Paul Schaefer in the morning?
Yeah, Paul Schaefer. Oh, isn't that always it's always the remedy, isn't it, for the Today Show crowd? Who listens to these reports, these health reports? And it's like, oh yes, yes, you need to drink 5 gallons of olive oil in order to help your cholesterol levels. Oh, okay. Let's go get a bunch of olive oil. Oh no, stop drinking olive oil, and you need to start drinking red wine. Red wine is now the thing.
Yeah, they're always changing gears. But I kind of felt like that's a little extreme, don't you think? They've got us paranoid about eating any produce, because when you look at, I looked at a few stories that were linked to the cyclosporin thing, and it literally said, here are some foods to think twice about buying now that cyclosporin is out there. It's a thing. And it was literally just about every vegetable and fruit that existed in the produce section. I was like, this is not, I'm going to take my chances. I'm just going to thoroughly wash my vegetables and fruits and basically just take a chance. And if I get explosive diarrhea, well, I know that I got it from something that was worth getting it from, like fresh blueberries or cabbage, and not from Taco Bell. If I get it from Taco Bell, I absolutely 100% deserve to literally be propelled through my asshole with liquid shit, because anybody would have to have shit for brains to eat that shit. But produce,
we haven't talked about disclosure in a while, and I was kind of
no.
Yeah, I think for good reason, because there hasn't really been anything new that's come out on the national scene regarding the Disclosure Project, but this has been something that we've kind of referenced from time to time in the podcast. So
the early days, we were rich with extraterrestrials and UAPs.
We were, and it was kind of a rich time if you think about it. What was it, like 2 years ago that the Tic Tac video came out, and we were kind of like, whoa, this is it. This is gonna be. I think by now we expected, I don't know, E.T. to be on the Today Show.
Well, he is in one form or another.
Yeah, I guess.
Third dimensional reptiles that own the Taco Bell near you.
But yeah, just to give a little bit of background, Bob Bigelow is the man who is featured in this new podcast that is hosted by his company, Bigelow Aerospace, and he owns also a Budget Suites company, which is like an extended hotel chain.
Which is a really interesting leap for me. I was reading a little bit about this guy's, his portfolio.
Yeah.
And to own a domestic hotel chain, I guess it's international hotel chain of budget hotels, and start an aerospace company. It's like, wow, that's
He's got a lot of irons in the fire. Mr. Bigelow does
irons in several fires. He also used to own the Skinwalker Ranch, which I find to be an interesting purchase.
Yeah, he was the original owner of the Skinwalker Ranch when the family that had farmed that area actually sold it. So he really kind of took it and turned it into really what it is today, which is kind of this like laboratory of extraterrestrial research and just a lot of different research when it comes to things that are just hard to explain. And it seems like that is it the Yuma? What's the name of the basin? The Yuma something basin?
Oh, you stumped me, geography. Yeah, that it's up in northern Utah.
Yeah, it's that whole area.
It's close to the Wyoming border.
Kind of a hot spot for that activity. Anyway,
there was some shit that, if you believe any of that stuff, some of the stuff's supposed to have gone down on the Skinwalker Ranch. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, and so there's a TV show that has been that has come out on the History Channel or something, and so anyway, Robert Bigelow was the original owner that kind of took that into the sphere of pop culture. Skinwalker Ranch, and he has provided financial support for investigations of UFOs, parapsychological topics, including the continuation of consciousness after death, and he's contributed a lot of money also to, I didn't realize this, to presidential campaigns. In fact, he's contributed so much to Donald Trump that he actually was able to have a meeting with the president regarding this topic, which
probably going to lose him some friends and respect right there with many. But
I mean, it is what it is, and I think there's an important thing to discuss there. That's something that I want to talk about later. But
so that's why then, because I was wondering about this, because we've talked a lot about Stephen Greer, and Stephen Greer's sort of. He just became sort of the leading figurehead. I think he's just such an intelligent guy that he kind of became the leading authority on this in the 90s and began briefing presidents and presidential cabinets on this subject. And I believe it started with the Clinton administration, and he's briefed every president since then. I don't know if it's been done in person for a while, but it was for a time. He would actually get an audience with the president of the United States. And I know the Clinton administration was the first one where this was supposed to have happened. Anyway, Bigelow does the same thing. And you send me this, and I don't, again, have a lot of the background, so I'm kind of flying blind with it. Now I'm understanding, because they're talking about when he has this meeting with DT. There's ET and DT. So he has this meeting with DT about ET. And I'm wondering, how in the hell did you get an audience with this guy? And now I'm realizing it. He contributed enough to the Columbia House. He taped enough Columbia House pennies on the send-in form.
Right.
He got in. So, okay.
He got an audience. Gotcha. And so I do want to put a pin in that comment that you made about Mr. Greer or Dr. Greer and come back to that in a little bit.
All right.
Let's just get a little bit of detail. So what exactly happened here at this interview or this briefing that he had with the president, and here he is.
So I was in the process for several months putting together a series of reports on 7 different topics, and UAPs, ET, and disclosure was one of the topics. And so February the 6th, I was in the Oval Office with the president. I had concerns about dumping so much information on him at one time. And I asked Susie Wiles, shouldn't I hold back? And she said, no. She said, go ahead and give him everything. I can tell you this. It may take him a while, but he will eventually read it all. I said, okay, I'll do it.
You don't know how much time you got with him.
I haven't a clue. I figure it's probably more than 30 minutes, but I don't know. And as it turned out, we were finished in about an hour and 15 or 20 minutes.
So yeah, anyway, the interview dives a little bit into the details, but also he dissects the future steps and benefits of public disclosure and the existence of non-human extraterrestrial intelligence.
What was your goal going in? What was the one thing you wanted to convey to him on that topic that you wanted to come out and have him understand?
Let me read to you something I told him I wanted him to say verbatim, and I described where he should say it, not where a podium existed and a lot of media existed, but I said, I want you to, for example, deliver this statement as you are getting onto Air Force One, and you're about to go through the hatchway through the door, but you stop and talk to the media, and you might say something like, I just want you to hear something. I want to make a statement. And this is what I want you to say, Mr. President. A non-human intelligent presence has been on Earth for a very long time, using spacecraft and with performances completely beyond our capabilities and our human physics. And that's it. To say nothing else. That's it. That's all. Because what this is disclosure, and it's actually confirmation. And the two are welded together. These are wedded together. And confirmation has not been officially made by any president that I know of, and has not. They've had different kinds of contact.
So the interview brings to light many real-world applications and implications of disclosure and the multi-layered issues of government, corporations, and individuals involved with the various agencies and programs, really since the 1940s. And this is why I want to circle back to Bob Bigelow's involvement in this arena, because he is really the poster child of these government contractors that we've been talking about. He is the owner of an aerospace company that has been given top secret, double top secret clearance by our government, and he has made money off of the access that he's received for these technologies or these programs. And I think, I don't say that to maybe discredit him from what he's sharing here publicly, but I also say that just to kind of have that awareness in this conversation, in that, when we start talking about this idea of national security and how communication is made, I mean, he's kind of been a part of that secrecy paradigm in his company.
You would wonder, if he's not part of the dark projects too, or that he doesn't know something about some of them, at least, if not a lot of them. It's an interesting marriage, I think. But these aerospace guys are known to have a leak, I guess you could say, here and there. They are known to have sort of a hemorrhaging of consciousness, because I don't remember the fella. Again, we talk about Stephen Greer. This is where the story comes from. The fellow who was the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works for years was apparently dying. And it always, takes that. It always takes being on your deathbed or being given a diagnosis that's terminal before these things start to boil over, because before then there's just too much at stake, and we wouldn't, want to ruin our little enterprise or put ourselves at risk. A lot of these people have families too, and of course these people are ruthless enough that are supposed to be protecting these projects that they would definitely do them in too. Anyway, the story is that this is where the line about, if you've seen it on television or the movies, Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, we've done it. We're already there. We're already probably past a lot of what you've seen. I mean, and that's a line that came from the fellow that used to head up the Lockheed Skunk Works. I don't remember his name. I just know that was something that he was supposed to have passed along. Another story that gets tossed about is the one about Werner von Braun, which is, he was the head of, he was kind of the figurehead of Operation Paperclip, which brought all of the ex-Nazi scientists and SS officers that were involved in the high-level science projects and were eggheads over here to work on the rocket technologies that eventually put them on the moon, and I guess us too in a way. They should change the line, actually. That's one small step for us one giant leap for them because that's exactly who took the fucking leap, not us. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, Von Braun also basically disclosed when he was on the home stretch of his life, apparently, that all of this was true and that there was a plan. He was actually instrumental in disclosing and sort of backing up what Greer has since picked up the torch of, which is there is a plan. He was claimed to be knowledgeable. He claimed to be in possession of knowledge about the government's plan to further the agenda for the continuing purchase of high-level tech for warfare, and that it would be renegade states like Vietnam for a while, and communism would obviously be a central point in that, because you have to have an ideology to divide the people if you're going to do it properly. Orcs that just come and storm the gate don't really exist too often in the world anymore, no matter how barbaric a people are. There's still an ideology that you need for the psychological warfare involved to divide the people and get them on your side. And you can see how well it worked with Vietnam. Half the country was done with war. We didn't care what the communists think. Fine, let them be communists. We don't care. We just don't want to kill each other anymore. Anyway, then there's the other side. And then it was supposed to evolve or de-evolve, however you look at it, into terrorism, and which is, just individual cells that are very difficult to control, that are embedded in these different nations that we kind of are hostile with because they shield them or aren't real tough on them like we would be, and they don't have our best interests. And then it would go into, I want to say, threats from space like asteroids, things of that nature, large objects, NEOs, as they're called, near-Earth objects, which would then be the obvious reason why we need to work on some of these advanced technologies to defend ourselves from a natural occurrence, from an organic occurrence of a big rock floating in from space. We don't want to be the next victims of the Chicxulub asteroid part 2. And then, of course, it's, during the course of this, we've also happened to discover that there's this intelligent threat from outer space, these hostile creatures with antennae, and they're going to blow the hell out of us to smithereens. And so we've got to go to war with them. So it was a staged plan. And where they're at in the plan, if it ever existed, is hard to tell, because we've had a smattering of all of that now that's taken place in the last 20 years. It's kind of, I almost feel like I call it the Nostradamus machine. I should probably write a book. I might make a few bucks if I just get my act together and sit down and do something worthwhile. But, I sort of feel like there's been enough profiteering, Prophet, if you will. There's been enough profiteering. There's been enough people that have come through that have seen the future, that I'm almost of the belief that there are timelines that are more indelible than others, that there are those that are likely to be followed. And I think that is where, I know it sounds kind of nuts, but what isn't at this point? I almost feel like that's what presidents are being advised on more than anything, and that people in these high up positions are probably more privy to than anything, is we're dealing with some people that have figured out the sciences that are behind things like precognition and clairvoyance, and they're understanding that there are choices that are obviously made. There are things that are literally done in the physical dimension that can create unfolding scenarios. And when you're on one of those that's more than likely to happen, you want to try to bend and get off of it. And some of those timelines where we might end up in World War III, for example, could be as simple as stymieing it could come down to something as simple as making sure that 6-year-old Jerry doesn't order the wrong chicken McNugget dipping sauce when he goes to the McDonald's up in San Pedro this weekend. I mean, it could be a weird little nuanced choice like that. You never know with this butterfly effect, but obviously it's usually larger decisions that are made on a global scale by governments that have influences over these sorts of things. So I don't know, that's a lot to take in, but it just it seems to me like this guy's involvement should be highly scrutinized. He seems like a nice fellow, I'll give you that. He's got a very charming demeanor. He seems to be very he's sort of soft-spoken in a way. He seems to be quite intelligent, which I would imagine you'd have to be to own any successful company to a degree. You'd have to speak business at least, but he seems to really be interested in the technologies that his industry that he's promoting and starting are invested in. So I don't know, but you never know who or what to really believe. And anytime you latch yourself on to one person and start dancing to the beat of their trumpet and their trumpet only, I think you got to question yourself too. And I have done the same thing. Everybody might say, well, Jack, you're such a Stephen Greer devotee. I've always tried to have the check and balances there just the same. It just seems to be that he's the one that continues to say the things that have always resonated the best with me. And I don't know how much better you can do than that.
Well, and that's what I thought was so interesting about this interview, in the sense that there's a lot of kind of this the logistical. How does this look? What does this look like? I mean, how does this play out? And they kind of go a little bit further. I only want to play like two more bites, but they go into kind of some of the logistics of this disclosure.
It can't be packaged in a way that you're divulging what you shouldn't be divulging. You know, other countries aren't. So there's reasons to have national secrets. There really are. I mean, that's kind of like common sense, right?
We don't want the Russians and Chinese and maybe other adversaries to know how far along we are or are not on figuring this out.
Absolutely. Okay. Especially of that. I think that the relationship thing is a mankind relationship. It's not just for America. When you're embarking as a president on trying to initiate a solemn relationship, you're not doing for US of A only. And so and then we probably can do a show on communication, but it's really complex, because who are you going to have initiated? Are you going to have politicians initiate? Are you going to have military people? Because everybody has kind of their own mindset. Are you going to have a bunch of lawyers initiated?
Oh, yes, please send the lawyers. Please send the lawyers in to make contact for humankind.
Well, or to be the agents of disclosure, at least, to say, they're here, and we've certified it, by the way. The lawyers would be the ones that say, yes, we've checked into this, and it's all looking ship shape. It's all copacetic.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, but that was the thing that I wanted to share about this podcast, and there's a lot more layers, I think, to this onion that might be popping up in the future on our podcast. But I thought it was definitely worth noting. You were going to say something else. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if people check out this interview, this one in particular, this appears to be a series, as you've said. But if they want to check out this particular interview between Mr. Knapp and Mr. Bigelow, he'll say this, it's full on in the beginning, but just be prepared in case you're looking for juicy presidential information. You won't get any.
No.
And the reason why is because Bigelow says right out of the outset, it's actually Knapp that points it out because he's the lifetime journalist. He says, you're not going to tell us anything that he said back to you, meaning Trump said to Bigelow. Bigelow will only divulge the questions that he asked to him. And then even when George, as the good journalist that he is, begins to buzz around the topics and say, well, I know I can't say, what did he say to that? He says, what did his demeanor look like when you said that? What did his body language say to you? And of course, Bigelow won't bite. He just literally says, no, I'm not going to get into that. I can't speculate. And that would, tend to tip my hand. That would be me tipping my hand to something that he may or may not think. And I don't want to, as he said, I think, do that to him. He doesn't want to put him in that position, which, I don't know. I mean, disclosure is a fascinating, I think I would just close it by saying this from my end of things. Disclosure is an interesting topic, but to me, it has become purely a sociological, what do you call those? Diorama. It's a sociological experiment because it's gone so far beyond that for me. As far as a personal, do I have a knowledge that things outside of humankind exist? Empirically, no. I cannot produce an Atacama man from my freezer and say, here, go study this and take it apart, and you'll certainly find that it's of extraterrestrial origin. So no, I can't do that to impress science's
there are
measure.
some people that take that approach, like the Boogosphere guy.
Well, but I think I'm on the same page with millions of others around the world and millions of people who've really kind of joined that club later than I did, which is there's a satisfaction that comes without the empirical evidence. There's a knowing that we are absolutely not alone. And when we say we're not alone, not only are we not alone in some physical construct, but we're not alone in a vastness that we couldn't even express. It's ineffable. And this is where I feel like, although it's interesting to stop and visit the reflection in the water of disclosure and check in on it and say, this is interesting. How are people taking it? What are the big guys doing with this? What are they saying now? It's vastly more important to be self-reflective on the subject, because that's what we're really talking about at the end of the day. Because as you can see, it's so easy for these guys that have all this money and all this power and all this influence to get off on this other trail that has nothing to do with us. We're already being influenced by these guys and all of their money and all of their power that they have in this grand game that we've aligned, that extraterrestrials likely don't play and don't want anything to do with. So I feel like where your real power lies, again, something Stephen Greer has always said, is that disclosure lies within you. It lies within the people. You're the ones that need to go do it. If you're wondering about it, follow his CE5 protocols, which I have never done. I've never felt like I've needed to make contact. I don't really feel like I want to dial up ET right now. I'm just fine leaving him alone and letting me do my thing down here. But anyway, to me at this point, like I said, disclosure is a sociological experiment and not so much about the grand epiphany that we are not alone in the universe. For me, that has long since been answered. And I think on a very subtle and even spiritual, if I might, level, that question has also been answered for many, many more people now than it had been in previous decades. And so these guys, we're kind of splitting off. I think the timeline, or just the whole purview is just splitting off in general. And we've got this disclosure timeline that is already overrun with these Robert Bigelows and these Donald Trumps and these people that want to be at the center of it. And I want to do it. And I want it to be my legacy. And it's a very self-motivated structure there. And then the real reason why it's important that we finally forge a connection to our brothers and sisters who exist not really elsewhere, because they're always right next door. But, we're not, I guess, scientific terms, we're not there yet. We're not ready to unleash what's been known. But anyway, I agree with you. It is fascinating.
It is from a sociological standpoint. I think totally. That's where I think I am dialed into it. And where, I guess the two questions that I have is, where do you think this curiosity comes from?
Well, and so before I have a question back for you on that. But before I answer that for you, I don't want to dodge it because there's no reason to, but the thing that Bigelow said, I just want to point out the thing that Bigelow said about, nations need to keep secrets from each other. I mean, and as he literally stopped himself and said, I mean, it's obvious. It goes without saying, right? You're wrong. You're wrong. See, I envision a world where we don't need and have a USA and a China and all these divisive things. Because remember, all of this is necessary. The reason why we would need to even think that there are adversarial stances in the world between a China and a Russia and a US and a Iran and all these other states that we have, all these invisible lines that we've pissed in the sand, is because we're playing a game that's about money and power, and they go hand in hand. And when you're able to put yourself off of that plane and picture, quite easily too, a lot of people have a hard time. They couldn't picture a world without money and the way things work. They're really sold on this thing that they've been born into. But some of us, it's very easy for us to imagine a utopia. It's very easy for us to imagine a working system, a mechanism where people live together harmoniously without all of the battling for the red, white, and blue, and all the keeping up the peace, and all the freedom fighting, and all this other bullshit that we get pounded into our brain to say, continue pumping money into whatever war machine it is, or whatever machine it is, defense machine, so that you're safe and so that freedom reigns. And those things are not true. Those things are a lie. And they're not a lie necessarily because of they're literally requiring rockets and bombs, red glare to defend a nation. They're a lie from the outset because the whole construct isn't necessary. You see what I'm saying? So it's not.
I think that's kind of answers the question in a way.
Okay, well, so that really stuck out to me too, because you got to remember who you're dealing with here. You're dealing with an aerospace company owner, and he has enormously deep pockets, and he's dealing with people that have even deeper pockets. In fact, the well probably never runs out, and he's selling his products to those people. And so, of course, he's sold on their way of doing business because, God damn, it's made him rich as hell. And that has to be his way of doing business. If he shows up and says, gentlemen, I don't have anything new for you this quarter because I've decided that we don't need to live the way that we do anymore, he's out of business. And he's also out of Skinwalker Ranch and all the other ranches he probably owns and the giant mansions and yachts that go with him. See, the whole thing in this lie evaporates because he's actually become conscious. He's acted on that consciousness. So while I salute him for wanting to forward disclosure for the people, he's serving it in a very minute way if it exists within the same world that we still have. Some of us are way beyond that, and it's not that we're better, it's just that we're way beyond that. We're not playing in that sandbox anymore.
Well, and I think, but I guess it's a caveat that we have to call out because in a way he has kind of been, for all intents and purposes, he's been part of the problem. And now all of a sudden, he wants to be kind of part of this solution for some reason. And I guess going back to the question, where does this curiosity come from?
Well, I don't mind. That's the thing. I don't mind a suddenly conscious turncoat. It's fine with me. I think we will benefit from that. The Bob Lazar of the world.
No, I'm not saying from his perspective, but I'm saying from like humankind's perspective. Where do you think this curiosity of visitors from another world come from?
To me, it's sort of like the story of the Buddha. If you know the story of the Buddha was born behind the castle walls and he was a prince. The Buddha had everything. And his parents gave him a rule that was very similar to what God gave Adam and Eve when it came to being in the castle walls. And they said, son, we love you like you wouldn't believe. And you have inherited, just by being here, you've inherited everything that you see around you. It's all yours. You're not old enough to officially reign over it, but someday in the very near future, you're going to find yourself controlling all of this. It's yours. It's our gift to you because it was a gift from someone else to us. But there's one rule we have for you. Don't ever fucking go outside the castle walls. Ever. You got it, kiddo? And at first, Buddha's like, yeah, sure, I got it. And so, he does what any young Buddha would do inside the castle walls. He enjoys, the spices of life. He lives a rich life, and he plays on his tuffet and jumps up and down on it and licks lollipops and probably, gives wedgies to the servants that come to feed him grapes by hand, shit like that. But then suddenly one day, what you're asking, literally what you just said, where does this
curiosity,
where does this curiosity come from? The same curiosity, the same agent that you're asking about comes to visit the Buddha and says, you need to get your ass outside these castle walls and see what's going on, because there's a knowing in you that there is something out there, and there's something out there that's going to transform you. There's something out there that's going to make you into a different, not only person, not only persona, a different being, an entirely different state of being will arrive to you, but you've got to get outside this bullshit. And the first clue would be you've been told not to go. The very first clue you should have is don't fuck around with this. Number one thing you want to do if you want the kid to put his hand on the hot plate is tell him not to put his hand on the hot plate, right? I'm not even a parent, and I know that. It's rule number one. If you don't want your kid to steal whatever it is from the kitchen cupboard, don't show him the thing in the kitchen cupboard. It immediately lights a fire.
The cookie jar.
the rest of the story of the Buddha, of course, is that he does sneak outside the castle walls, and then he meets a man. He kind of goes through the four horsemen. It's not quite like that, but he meets a man that's incredibly impoverished. He's in a state of penury that he didn't know was possible. He meets a diseased man, as I recall, and he definitely meets a dead guy. That's when he looks death in the face. And it arrives to him, the epiphany that, and there's a lot of people, way more people in these plights than there are within the castle walls that he's resided as a part of for, at this point, he's quite young still. But so, then the story is that he becomes aware of the suffering that's in the world. And then eventually he goes on, crusade is the wrong word, but he is enlightened and he seeks enlightenment. I should say he seeks enlightenment. And then so he goes to the fig tree and then he is officially enlightened at that point. And that's when his deital status arrives and people start following him. So it's not quite the Jesus story. It's not quite the Muhammad story, but it's one of my favorites in a literary sense as far as theology is concerned, because it answers so many basic questions that we have in the world to this day, because the Western world is reliant upon us to put ourselves within our own castle walls. The dream, we just had a big Powerball drawing, right? And you're thinking, man, what a dream that would be. I got $1 billion. I can buy the biggest fortress and seal myself off from the world and forget all about all of this pain and suffering and bullshit. I got 48 million satellite channels. I got 3 swimming pools. One of them's Olympic size and filled with Mountain Dew. I've got life is made. But see, life wants you to take refuge within those walls. And the story of the Buddha is designed to get you outside of them and realize that the true living that you can do, the true experiencing that you can do, the true growth that you can do is among all of the great unwashed. That's where all of the best stuff happens, not inside the fucking castle walls. That's where the worst of things happen, because it's where you have no room to grow. So back to the disclosure, that's my answer, as usual in Jack Hansen long form. That's where the curiosity comes from. We absolutely all sense in some way, shape, or form, to one degree or another, that presence is there. It's with us all the time. It's inextricable. Those brothers and sisters that we have living lives that are extraterrestrial to us are right there with us all the time. And they're part of our lives. They're part of our experience just the same, no matter how vast the distances might be when measured scientifically. So we sense that, and therefore we seek that. But what do we hit? We hit the same walls. The first phase of this for decades was what? No. Swamp gas. You saw Venus in the morning at the weird angle that it can take sometimes when it looks like it's flashing. It's don't go down that road. We're going to do everything we can to discredit this and keep this for ourselves. Why? Well, just because there has to be a keeper in the story for it to be interesting. That's the challenge for you, to continue to follow that curiosity and seek that light and that enlightenment that goes with it, and not be bogged down by it. So that's why, to me, there's your real disclosure. It happens individually for each and every soul that's living a life that's human presently, not for these guys that are, looking to disclose, because that's a whole different avenue to me. And at best, like I said, it's a sociological interest. It's not true disclosure, though.
So I have 2 questions for you. Do you believe in non-human extraterrestrial life and it existing in the universe?
Well, of course.
For me, this was the light bulb that clicked on whenever somebody says, well, why is it that you believe in non-human extraterrestrial life and it existing in the universe? So you see this orange that I have in my hand?
Yes.
Okay. So I have just now taken the Earth, and it is now the scale of this orange.
Okay,
we're right there. Antarctica.
We are draw a little
right
we are here on it. I love that.
Yeah, we are here. Okay, this is Hawaii. Okay. So this orange represents the Earth. So let me do my best Carl Sagan. So if we scale the Earth down to the size of this orange, okay?
Yes.
So we have Earth orange here. The sun would be the size of a 2-story house.
Yes, that's about right.
The moon would be the size of a large blueberry.
Blueberry.
Not Burberry, but
Be
blueberry.
the size of a large blueberry.
Now, okay, so we've got Earth Orange, we've got
right.
2-story house sun, and we have Blueberry Moon.
Blueberry
Okay.
moon.
Now let's talk about space. Earth would be 6.5 feet from the blueberry. The sun, or the 2-story house, would be half a mile from the orange.
Right. Okay.
Jupiter would be 2.9.
Which is a big watermelon, right?
I didn't ask what the scale of Jupiter would be, but
I think Jupiter is bigger than a melon, and bigger than anything in the fruit kingdom that's left.
Would it be bigger than the
comparatively
sun?
speaking, to Earth. Oh God, no! Jupiter's not bigger than the sun. But it has been theorized until they started planet hunting that Jupiter was as big as a gas giant could get before it became a star. But they've discovered some gas giants that are even bigger now.
So maybe Jupiter would be a semi or something. Anyway,
it would be huge. Okay. Anyway.
So Jupiter, which is in this case a Mack truck, would be 2.9 miles. 2.9 miles away from the orange.
From the orange.
Okay. So even at this shrunken scale, space is still vastly empty. Now, the neighboring galaxy, Andromeda, 2.5 million light years away. If we take 2.5 million light years and put it into this orange, blueberry, 2-story house, Mack truck scale, Andromeda, are you sitting down?
I think I know the relative distance we're going to go to here, but yeah, I'm sitting.
If you had a piece of string that was 1.5 million miles long, it would wrap around the Earth 60 times. Even in my orange mind scale, which is really what I had to do in order to make this whole, because light years and all this, that's like Star Trek, right? So it doesn't really sink in to me. So I have to always equate it to something that I can really conceptualize. To me, that's huge. And it is so vast, there's really no way that there couldn't possibly be any kind of extraterrestrial, non-human extraterrestrial life in our universe.
The holdouts are kind of damned by the percentages, by the possibilities when you start drawing them out on a physical scale. But the interesting thing about that is that while your equation could easily produce a convert, you could, go to somebody that was on the fence, let's say, about, well, I'm not sure. And then you gave them your orange, your produce section versus house versus string
Mack
versus
truck.
this. Yeah, that whole thing that you just did. You could give that to them and they could say, wow. And then, of course, it's also very important to multiply out, which wasn't done, just the number of stars that could easily and likely do in some cases, if not even most, harbor planets around them in just the Milky Way galaxy alone is it's a lot. I don't remember the number. I always remember Carl Sagan said this of the universe. There's 1 trillion billion stars in it. That's a lot of stars. And so when we start to compact those stars into these little star jars that we call galaxies, ours has an incredible number, would seem infinite to a person. Probably, let's put it this way. You could spend an average human lifetime. We'd have to do the math. I don't know this. I'm just pulling this out of the air. So I could be way off on the downside, let alone the upside. But my guess would be you could take an average human lifespan of 75 years, let's say, or 80 years, and travel to each of the stars in just our galaxy alone for a few minutes and never even come close to going to all of them, if you could, in the snap of a finger. Science would tell you that there's got to be something out there besides us. Perfect. Now, It's all about how do you reach them. And this is where the fun part of the exercise comes, because you realize, and this is exactly what even the greatest minds of our time and the times before ours, I think, realize, not I think they realize, they did realize it, is these distances are too vast to cover with these rockets that we're, and even if we master electrogravitic technologies and things of that nature, still, if we're talking about as the crow flies, if it had a space helmet on, distances are just too great. There's just too much space to cover. You can't reach out and shake hands with ET, even though you really want to, even though you want to curious and you find out. So that's where this last frontier of consciousness came into being from Stephen Greer. And that's where I think a lot of the astrophysicists and the people that are even into, I don't know what the term would be for it, but you know, where you would actually explore consciousness as a device to span those distances, because it's the only one that's going to. And that's exactly what his theories, if you want to call them that, he believes that it's just flat out knowledge at this point, but it's the only way that you can, this is going to work. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't bring something into another space, but you have to use consciousness as the vacuum that accomplishes that. Once you've figured that out, once you've figured out that your mind and its connection to everything that is, which includes all of these beings that you want to say hello to, is the connection. Once you figure out that is the connection that drives everything, and you can go anywhere that you want, whenever you want to, once you've figured that out, and then eventually once you've, I guess, mastered that, or at least mastered it to a degree where you can do it once in a while if you want to, then those distances don't exist anymore. It's what the theory of remote viewing is about in a lot of ways too.
I was going to say, yeah.
I can put myself anywhere that I want in space and time, because space and time is all relative. It exists at the same time. Everything that's ever happened, is happening now, and ever will happen is all happening simultaneously. It's all happening at the same time. And so therefore, you don't have to move at all on the chessboard to explore its corners. All you have to do is just say, I'm in one of those corners right now, and you're there, because everything exists at the same time and is basically in the same place, therefore, all at the same time. So the distances aren't real when you remove the physical objectivity. When you take that out of the equation, now suddenly it's no holds barred. And that's what they're toying with. And that's what the scientists, with all the big projects that have the money and the government funding and the dark projects and all, that's what they're toying with. But of course, they're wanting to use it for all these ridiculous, nefarious purposes to plug into this game that we have going on here still, where there's money and power. Whereas I think most human beings are tired of that, and we'd like to forge something better for ourselves before our biosphere dies off and we're forced to start over again in some measure. I mean, you know, there's a lot of theories, and I know that it's easier in life when you decide on one or two to follow, when you decide to become a follower of one or two. It does make life easier, I will say that. And so being an open book at all times is hard, and I have always tried to be just that. There's a few things that I feel like are paramount. There's a few things that I feel like are axiomatic. They're inarguable. There's no question in my mind, at least, that they exist. But you got to be careful with locking up the vault, because I think I described this many, many, many episodes ago. It's that house flying through space that I always used to picture that had the windows and doors closed. When the windows and doors are all closed with the house that's flying through space and you're in there living in the house, none of the rays of any stars or none of the rays of any nearby suns or none of the messages from any nearby planets or anything like that, none of that gets to you. So you've got to leave a window or a door open here or there so those things can get in and change your perspective. It's the only way that we change. And when we get into theological obstinance or we get into scientific obstinance because we absolutely have decided this is the way and the only way, we're wrecking our experience, in my opinion. We're losing out on being able to see this and experience something from a different perspective. And after all, why would we exist unless we just wanted to see different perspectives? What fun is it to go through life with the same hardened expectation of everything? I think that's, there's two sides to this. There is the, people that still don't believe, I guess, or don't think that there's life outside of, sentient life outside of the planet Earth. And to me, that's fine. It's just like, if that's what your bent needs to be while you're here, there's obvious a reason why you need to be there. But on the other side of that, once you have someone convinced of that, you can't just let it go at, well, but they're all the way over there, so it just doesn't matter because we just can't reach them, gosh darn it, because that's the way God made the universe. No, that's not acceptable. There is a way to reach them, but it's different than how we get to grandma's house. It's different than packing in the family truckster and going to see grandma.
Well, and I would strongly advise anyone who's interested in this sense of consciousness that you're talking about with the whether it's the meditation or the CE5 or whatever, I would strongly recommend that listeners go check out episode 2, because episode 2 of this series of Bigelow and George Knapp actually gets really deep into the weeds of how his company was involved in developing a program, and then there's a series of essays that were actually written on proving that that there is life after death and consciousness playing into that, and how it also kind of delves into the UFO category, and they're kind of one and the same. And I mean, it gets pretty deep. And I, if somebody was a non-believer, and I wouldn't probably lead with that, but I think as somebody gets further on into this idea of, like you said, traveling beyond the boundaries of the physical world, it's fascinating to see that, we are very special beings, and what we can't maybe do physically with our bodies, we definitely can do things with our mind that I don't think is fully understood or has been brought to its full potential yet. And I do kind of think that that's maybe where some of this now starts to go beyond. And I think in previous, in the 60s and in previous decades, we were so fascinated and fixated on this idea that there would be this Martian UFO that would land on the White House lawn, and they would come out and say, "Take me to your leader." And I think it's now kind of evolving beyond just that very simple concept of physical time and space.
Well, and we've evolved as a people in the West, at least. And I think that's always very important to point out, that Occidental society is different than the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of people out there that are humming on a different drum than we are. These things that are heavily debated scientifically, sociologically in the West have already been sorted out in ancient cultures that are older than ours. Native Americans, which are older than the white settlers, obviously, that have came to the Americas, they have a lot of that sorted out. Star beings and star brothers and sisters are a woven, integral piece of the fabric of their background as a people. They are part of their, what we call mythology stories. But these are stories of provenance. These are stories about how those people actually came to be, and they need to be taken seriously. Things that are in the Mahabharata and other books of the Hindu beliefs and of the Middle Eastern cultures that we have today, those expressly say that space beings exist, and they not only existed, they were here fighting wars with each other and doing all kinds of things many, many years before the cradle of civilization was supposed to have emerged in Sumeria about 15,000 years ago with the first people, theoretically. That was going on, long time before that. So I think Western people have had their own journey with that. And so I always feel like it's important to parcel out, okay, there's other parts of the world where if you're born, this stuff is just natural conversation at the dinner table. You are brought up to believe 100% that these things exist because they're part of the background of the entire culture that you're a part of. Whereas here, there's a separation with that. So having been said that, in Western terms, we have come a long way from the White House lawn. And the reason why is because the White House lawn, what is the White House lawn? What does that even mean? I mean, that's a classic thing that's always been, that's always existed in ufology is, well, when they come and land on the White House lawn, then I'll believe it. And that shows, again, a psychological link that people have in a sociological way with who's in power. As soon as the president says it, then I'll buy it because I voted for him in the last election and I'm going to do it again. Because, so we're severing the need for that. We're starting to break free from the White House lawn.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's so obvious. One of the, first of all, it's one of the most defended military airspaces in the world, over the White House. So, but it has nothing to do with just a craft breaking through that ceiling and plopping down with CNN and every other news agency's cameras trained directly at it. And then the ramp comes down and then all of a sudden, take me to your leader. What we're getting away from is the need for that to be so bound up in the White House and the leader and who's in charge. And again, that is where the power truly lies. We're taking that back because I think the great awakening that's happening with disclosure, if you want to call it that, is that we don't care what you disclose. We've come to find out through hundreds and even thousands of years of very difficult and bloody tribulations and trials in history that whoever is in power, it has never mattered who it is, whether they're a good guy or whether they're kind of a bad guy seemingly or whatever, doesn't matter how dispositional energy works with them. We can't trust you. You have an agenda. You have something that you want to attain as a result of telling us everything that you tell us. And so therefore we are finished, like with the sky is falling. We're done. And also, it seems to be incumbent upon us to reach out and want to say hello for the right reasons. That's another thing that we could go back and dial up Dr. Greer for is, when he goes and does the CE5 contact missions out in the desert and in the mountains and places where he takes these people, he's often said, if you've got one or two people in the group that think they're ready, but they're not there for the right reasons, it's kitschy to them. It's just, I want to see an alien like I want to go to Magic Mountain. It ain't fucking happening. And the whole group is disappointed. And he doesn't point it out. I don't know if he points it out or not, but it just seems like he alludes to,
I've heard him say that.
I don't really point at the people and say, okay, you're doing it, but it's clear that someone is not there for the right reasons. And that is the reason why they want to show up. And the reason why he says that they want to show up is so beautiful to me. It's so lovely, which is just, hi, I'm Jack. I'm an earthling. I'm called human. And I'm really eager to meet you. I'm eager to meet someone on the other side of the veil. So I'm reaching out tonight. And if that interest is pure and it's being delivered, the message is being delivered in a correct manner to derive that it's pure and that it's not for ulterior motivations, they reach back. That's supposed to be as easy as it is. It's just, they'll show up, they'll pop in and let you know, hey, we're here. We're just saying hi back. We just want to let you know that we're acknowledging that we are here and we're reaching back and saying hello because we're interested in you too. And maybe this relationship can go somewhere if you reach out a little bit more often. The communications can become more evolved, I guess, or they could become something more than just us popping in our ship or a light in the sky or something. But wouldn't that be something just in and of itself? If you're out one night and, you're in the woods and maybe you're by yourself because you've snuck away to take a leak or get a beer or something. I don't know what people do in the woods. I don't go out there, but you're out there and it's just like, hey, I really, truly want to say hello. And then all of a sudden there's an unmistakable twinkle that's out of place in the sky. Something shows up and glinters and says, hey, it's us. How you doing? That's the start of a pretty cool relationship as far as I'm concerned. But it all has to be for the right reason. And the right reason is just to want to say hello. But it can't be, it can't be a novelty. And that's what he has warned against, because for so many people, seeing an alien or having contact or these other things, and he doesn't like the word alien either, but, seeing an extraterrestrial, extra biological, whatever the, ETB thing, is just another bucket list check thing. It's just, I want to go to Magic Mountain. I want to go to Harry Potter's wonderful wizarding world in Universal Studios. And then I want to meet an extraterrestrial. I want to meet him. And I know Jill Colucci, who sits next to me in math class, says she's going to be the first to meet him. I know I'm going to be the first one to meet him. I'm going to shake hands with him. It's going to be green and slimy, and I don't care because
I want a selfie. I want a selfie. Can I have a selfie?
Can you imagine making the movie E.T. today? Let's just,
No.
you know the movie E.T., 1982, Spielberg classic.
Mhm.
Last time they made an alien be just, completely benevolent and
Mhm.
almost in some ways blind to the fact that anything like humans could exist in the universe and do the things we do to each other. But anyway, fast forward, make that movie today. I mean, just first of all, it would be over in like 13 minutes. They'd know where the craft came down. The men would be there instantaneously. There would be no Reese's Pieces trail. The movie would be over. It's like speaking of Harry Potter, like Maddie's a fan because, of course, she's younger, so she was raised with that stuff. And I just avoid the hype because I don't have anything against it. But Sorting Hat, let's put it this way, Sorting Hat was the best thing in Harry Potter. It needed its own series of movies because it was vastly more interesting than the other stuff, which was just Star Wars packaged up with wizards. Yet again, and Star Wars was just all of the classic stories from literature going way back when, packaged up in space. So it's the same story repeated. But anyway, I guess I forgot where I was going with that. So
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I know Harry Potter, but I trailed off too much.
Gelatinous cube eats village. I think it's terrific.
Thank you. Another non sequitur from Hanson. It happens to me. I'm getting old. What do you want? So.
When Jack has way too much coffee.
I gave you some speed metal this week.
Yeah, you did.
But I'm worried that Scanner, this is the German band Scanner, by the way. They were kind of the cousins of Halloween in a way. Although Halloween made it really big and Scanner's not around anymore. They were on a big enough metal label. I'm worried that we're going to get flagged by
So we may have to cut this out eventually.
I don't know. So I'm taking a chance.
That's what the long versions are for, to be partially blocked in certain regions.
Exactly.
Because of intellectual property. Things that we do not subscribe to.
See Jack's comments about intellectual property in like episode 6 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like episode 70.
It was, I know, Seth, you got it memorized.
Until we meet again.
Until we meet again, we leave you with Scanner and Not Alone.
As we traverse the cosmic highway.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own Existence Brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.